In many other normal countries, the way one dreams of becoming rich and successful is through entrepreneurship, businesses, starting a factory, or coming up with a brand new innovation that makes you rich. However, in the country called Kenya, the most popular way to make a fortune is to get into elected politics. Well, over the last few days, these rich fat cats, politicians, have woken up to a very different country. Many of them are moving around in unmarked vehicles. Some are even using Probox cars. Oh yes, you heard me right. Why? Because they are avoiding the wrath of the Kenyan electorate. Na mambo bado, tena bado sana. And if you thought things are cooling down in Kenya, sample the following. What is happening right now as I record this video? There are protesters in front of Nakuru State House, and they're chanting, Ruto must go. Ruto must go. You see, there's heavy security around state lodges and state houses countrywide. There are police vehicles, roadblocks, blocking most roads into that state house or lodge. However, in Nakuru, for those who know the town very well, State House is right next to a major highway. Indeed, the major highway that enters Nakuru. And in Nairobi, at Uhuru Park, there is a candle lighting ceremony for those who have lost their lives in this 2024 finance bill mandamanos. And then in the most dramatic event of the day, very sad, former Nandi Hills legislator Alfred Keter was coming from church, today is a Sunday, and at some point where traffic slowed, 3 men came out of nowhere and abducted him. Indeed, that incident was captured by several cameras and is available online, showing the brief discussion with Keter, who was driving the vehicle, and then the people dragging him away as his children, his wife, his family were screaming in terror. And amid all this, I'm sure many of you have heard of the announced 7 days of justice by the Gen Z, which is ongoing. So, I need to ask you, do you still think that things in Kenya have slowed down? You tell me. The very opposite. The momentum is picking up way too fast. Even as Ruto's regime continues to do the same old things, expecting different results. Isn't that crazy? But that is what is unfolding. Now there is something else, a bombshell that I'm going to drop on my show today. Have you noticed that Ruto is no longer going out of the country? Now some Kenyans have come up with various theories and reasons they think Ruto has stopped globe-trotting, or when he's out of the country may be toppled, or this and that. No, none of the above. The real reason is going to shock you to your bones, and I'm not exaggerating. But I will come back to that very shortly. Now, this abduction of Alfred Keter, former MP for Nandi Hills, is a terrible mistake of the Ruto regime. I know it is worrying. It is cause for great concern. You're picking people off the streets, right in front of their family and their children screaming. What kind of country do we have? What has Kenya come to? Hey. Our forefathers, who fought very hard to get rid of the colonial masters, did not fight for independence for us to do this to ourselves, did they? And even the colonialists, with all their cruelty, did not do what the Ruto regime is doing, targeting a few individuals, in their desperate attempt to get to the leaders of the Gen Z revolution, or rather the Gen Z-led revolution, because it would seem that all Kenyans are deep into it right now. You don't believe me? Have you noticed the attitude of businesses to the maandamanos? Let me remind you what happened in 2023. Many of them came out complaining. They said maandamanos were interfering with their businesses. They urged Azimio, please, Raila, please, stop the maandamanos. They're interfering with our businesses. You're putting us in a situation where putting food on the table for our families is getting tricky. Please stop the maandamano. Well, in the year 2024, with this Gen Z-led revolution, have you ever heard such a statement from a single business? Of course not. In fact, what we have seen is businesses openly aiding the protesters. Where a restaurant in Nairobi was distributing water to protesters, drinking water, and there are many other instances right across the country. What does all this tell us? It tells us that the business community is backing the maandamanos, is fully behind the revolution. And it's rather obvious. Why? Because the Ruto regime has pushed them into a corner. Many businesses have closed, and those who are barely surviving have no idea what tomorrow will look like at this rate. Now, that should tell you that it is all over for Ruto. Even if it doesn't look like that right now, it is all over. It is simply a matter of time. Because the kidnapped Keter has a lot of support in the Rift Valley. My guess is the government are concerned, the Ruto regime is concerned about this massive support Bwana Keter has right across the Rift Valley, the home of William Samoei Ruto. And it seems it has been decided that dealing with the inciters of the Kalenjin nation is a top priority. Now, of course, the question is, will it work at this juncture where we've reached? Will it really work? I don't think so. Remember, even as we speak, there are demonstrations right outside Nakuru State House. Nakuru is at the heart of the Rift Valley, in case you forgot. But if truth be told, the government should be much more worried about the rest of the country than they are about the Rift Valley. Why? Because the 7 days of justice announced by the Gen Zs is already proving to have a major impact. Very major impact. Sitting down peacefully on all major highways in the country is something that could easily cripple our nation and bring everything to a standstill. More so considering the fact that our police are already stretched to the limit. Okay, you know, in previous maandamanos, they would rush personnel to Nairobi to deal with major expected maandamanos in Nairobi. But that can no longer be done, because where you get these policemen from? Who will deal with issues there when they erupt? These protests are countrywide. And they continue even after the government told us they have scrapped Finance Bill 2024. Indeed, in recent hours, Kimani Ichung'wah has gone further and withdrawn a related bill to do with land, where freehold land was going to be subject to extra taxes. That bill has also been trashed by the Ruto regime. In other words, the Ruto regime has been moving back and back and back. They have been retreating without ceasing. And so if you want to look at this battle like that between the Gen Zs and the Ruto administration, and maybe you want to assess who is winning, there is the answer for you. The government has been constantly on retreat mode. They can't find the leaders of the Gen Zs. We are told there are no leaders, and we have to believe that, because the government has really looked. Hawapatikani? Nowhere to be seen. Folks, brace yourselves for a very eventful week, where I believe the already panicked Ruto regime is going to panic even more. And maybe, just maybe, it would be an excellent idea, even as we all scream Ruto must go, it may be an ideal solution if the servers can be opened to reveal the true results of the last elections. It will help a lot of people who right now are feeling very guilty, because my guess is they will feel much less guilty when they realize that their reckless actions of even voting for a man called Ruto have caused all these problems, all this chaos, all this loss of lives in our country. But let us go back to this issue of Ruto not leaving the country, of abandoning all his foreign trips. Now, let me tell you a story. Former leader of the Democratic Republic of Congo, it was called Zaire in those days, Mobutu Sese Seko, when he was hounded out of power, many people who don't know how these things go were very surprised. Mobutu had very firm backing from Western nations, from France, from the US, etc., etc. But when he was hounded out of power, none of these countries wanted him to enter their soil. And so Mobutu Sese Seko, a very ruthless dictator who had ruled and stolen from Zaire for decades, found himself in that very uncomfortable situation, where he's running away from his country, but he has nowhere to run. And so finally, I think he had very good contacts in Morocco. They felt pity for him, and he was welcomed to Morocco, and that is where he passed on. Now, this behavior by nations of the world is very understandable, for the simple reason that when people realize that a leader may be going, he doesn't have to be going. If they suspect, due to the unrest in their country, there may be a change of regime, they abandon him completely. And it's not personal. You put yourself in their shoes for a minute. You're supporting somebody who is on his way out. He is visiting your country regularly. Now, in case he leaves power, when the new government takes over, you will have a huge diplomatic problem. Because it is only natural for the new regime to blame you for supporting the former leader, whom the people have ousted, with good reason. And so, believe it or not, currently, Ruto has a problem entering any country. Of course, they're going to speak to him politely. I'm sorry, sir, Mr. President, but I think you should wait for things to calm down. And then you can come and visit for as many days as you want. Only let things cool down first. You see, politics anywhere is brutal. Even international politics can be very brutal. And of course, it's just normal. It's human nature. We humans discover who our real friends are in a time of a crisis. And usually we find out, actually we have no friends. That's life. And by the way, all signs on the ground are that Ruto is going. Ruto is gone. It's only a matter of time. Although, as we all know, Ruto's regime is going to put up quite a fight. I don't know how, but they're going to fight. They're not going to go just like that. And that is where the problem is. Because the more they resist the obvious, the more Kenyans are going to suffer. The more suffering they're subjecting the already long-suffering Kenyan to. Oh boy. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.